It's really funny how all this came about. I was posting on social media one night that we needed to do something to get entrepreneurs together, and kind of opined maybe having it at my restaurant in Drew, and Brian called me. I have to call you out since you refused to speak tonight. He said he would do stand-up comedy later, really what he said. But Brian immediately sent me a message and he said, we're going to do this in Indianola at the B.B. King Museum. And so he set this whole thing up. So real thanks to Brian for setting all this up tonight. So, I thought about what I was really hoping for a whole lot of entrepreneurs and the turnout. I think this is a great turnout. I think Sunflower County has a lot of really interesting, smart people in it. Of course, we've got some people from out of county as well, and we appreciate y'all for driving up. But initially, I really didn't know what I was going to talk about tonight, but several years ago, I went through some incredible financial stress, and I ended up having to re-examine what I was doing with my life. So I wrote this book last year. It's a long story, but I started interviewing people like Dinesh Chawla. Dinesh is in here, and smart people like that. Flew to Miami one time and met John Paul DeJoria, who owns Paul Mitchell Hair Systems. He's just tried to get around as many smart people as I could. And I came up with all of these ideas that I learned from them because I believe success leaves clues. So I wrote this book. I thought I was really smart, and I came up with 27 things. And I was like, I can't even remember 27 things. So I narrowed them down to 3. And that's what I was going to talk about tonight. But when Brian and I did the live thing the other day, what interested most people was social media. That's what everybody's talking about. And as entrepreneurs, and as I walked around the room and talked to different people, it occurs to me that we're all living life one way, but we're marketing a different way. We put up on a pedestal television. And just show of hands, how many of you in this room have TiVo or Netflix or Hulu or something? Guys, look around the room. Network TV's dead. I just got through telling Hayes a minute ago, when I ran for office 3 years ago, I used no network television. I bought no ads other than Facebook. I ran my entire campaign on Facebook and door-to-door campaigning. And I got 83.75% of the vote. Now, I'm not saying that's proof that it works, but to me it was. But I don't think, there's nobody in here under 15, right? So we all remember a time before smartphones. Everybody lives on this thing now. I don't know if we understand what that means as entrepreneurs. We live on smartphones today. I'm not interested in what the consumer did 5 years ago. I'm interested in emerging consumer behavior. And when I think about saying something up here today that might give value to everybody in the room, that's really what I'm thinking about. Emerging consumer behavior. I'm not here to try to tell you the future. I'm telling you what's happening. History repeats itself. In the 1950s, the majority of Fortune 500 companies lost market share. That's the same decade everybody got TV in the home. Last year, 92% of Fortune 500 companies lost market share. The difference is this time, they didn't lose them to other big corporations. They're losing them to people like my friend Dean O'Neill, who I went to college with. We lived together at Mississippi State. He has a clothing company that he runs off his kitchen table, and I'm not making this up, called Coastal Waters. And there are people like Dean all over, and they're taking little bites out of the big companies. They're taking little bites. This is the most exciting time to ever be alive. You've got this thing in the palm of your hand that's greater than what Ronald Reagan ran the free world with. He didn't have that kind of computing power. I don't know if y'all understand what's really going on. Network's dead. $81 billion was spent on network advertising last year. What do you think is going to happen when they figure that out? The benefit of us being small entrepreneurs, small business people, is that we can turn on a dime. You can make the decision tonight that you're going to go home and you're going to Google how to run Instagram ads and figure out how to do this. It's not hard. I'm having real success with it. And I'm not that good at it. It's just there's so much white space. But when that $81 billion finally turns that big ship around, that $20 ad that filled my restaurant up 2 weeks ago cost me $3 a table. Every reservation except for Keith, who comes in every day. If he doesn't come in the restaurant, we call to make sure he's okay. But every reservation except for Keith came from Facebook. Cost me $3 a table. Nothing else has ever come close. Everybody wants to know what the ROI is. Nobody else has ever come close to that for my business. for any business I've ever had. I mean, do you guys realize that there's 11-year-olds making $1 million a year selling slime on Instagram? The top 1% starts at 400,000. There's 11-year-olds in the 1%. You know, whether you're hazed in and you're trying to get a bill passed or get somebody elected, whether you're Keith and you're trying to build, you know, carpentry cabinets and that kind of thing, no matter what you're doing, I really believe it's the greatest time to be an entrepreneur in the history of mankind. This is the greatest shift in the way we disseminate information since the printing press, and I think it's more substantial than that. It's only just begun. Toys R Us went out of business because their model for the internet was to let Amazon handle their fulfillment. And we got used to buying toys from Amazon, and now they're gone. Whole Foods, owned by Amazon now. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world. If I had told you 15 years ago that it was going to be a good idea for your college daughter to get in a car of a 40-year-old man several times a day to get around, and that would be the best way, you would have laughed me out of the room. But Uber is now worth more than Ford Motor Company. I mean, I don't know if we grasp what's happening here and why we look, just ride down the road. Next time you're on the interstate, drive down the interstate, look in the car next to you. If there's 4 people in the car, at least 3 of them are on their cell phone. You hope not 4, because it might be 4. On the interstate, people care more about that cell phone, they care more about what's in their palm of their hand than they do their own personal safety. And there's 3 people riding with them that don't care enough to make them put it down. Nobody watches commercials. I don't know if y'all have ever done this. I have TiVo. I will occasionally come home and the TV will already be on, and I'll sit down and a commercial comes on because I don't have the remote, and by the end of the day I'm too lazy to get up and get it. But y'all know what I do. I don't watch the commercial. I pull my cell phone out and I check my email and I look at Facebook and I look at Instagram. And everybody's doing it. If you're spending money that way, it's just a total waste. And how long before Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Hilton and General Motors figures that out? And I think they know, but it is harder. It's easy to pick up the phone and buy a bunch of advertising if you're, in fact, executives for Coca-Cola get paid by how much advertising they buy, which seems stupid to me. So they would actually be losing money to do the right thing. And I'm not saying what I'm saying because, I've got a lot of friends in radio. I have not actually listened to the radio for the first time today in probably 2 years. I listen to iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, I don't even know what you call Amazon Prime Music. But I very seldom listen to the radio, and I have friends that own radio stations, and they are so nostalgic about the way it used to be. And they're like, oh, but we can still sell it. It's still a good model. I'm like, you can sell it, but dollar for dollar, it can't even compare. And I feel sorry for them, but I want to be historically accurate when I get up and tell you guys something, because, hey, I'm recording this, and so in like 5 years, I'm going to pan around and show all y'all in the room. That way in 5 years, I can go, I told y'all, and y'all wouldn't listen. But I really believe what I'm saying. We're all here tonight. Most of the people in here saw this on social media. I mean, I just go back to the point, we're living one way, but we're marketing another way. And everybody in here has a business, and it doesn't matter if you're running for mayor or if you're selling sandwiches in Drew, it works. And it works dollar for dollar. Right now, if you want to catch people 40 and over, Facebook, 13 to 30, Instagram. Which for me, by the way, Instagram's been a lot harder. And I will say this. Everything we're talking about is less than 15 years old. We talked about that just a second ago. And even we can't wrap our head around that there was no Netflix, there was no Uber, there was no Facebook, there was no iPhone. iPhone's been around 11 years. And there are people in the room that said, I'll never use text. That's stupid. Because I was I know there's one person, because I was one of them. And now, and tell me if I'm wrong, but if somebody calls you, there's frequently times you hang up and go, they could have just texted me that. Why did they call? And 10 years ago, you thought text was stupid. And somebody's granddad in here sent a poop emoji today. I mean, it's just crazy. We're living in a different world. It's bigger than the printing press. It's this is the funny conversation I'll have with people who own businesses. Facebook is a terrible thing. Look at what it's doing to our economy. Look at what it's doing to our government. They're afraid that Facebook is actually going to tear down. We actually had congressional hearings on Facebook and the danger it poses to our democracy. And the same guy will say, but I don't think it can sell my stuff. I mean, just think about it. But we can debate all of that. But in 1950, we would have been debating how that nasty Elvis is up on TV shaking his hips, right? We evolve. You can't put it back in the box. We can be nostalgic. We can think about it, but we're moving forward. And I really, really believe, and this is as I went through what I went through financially, I mean, I had a financial meltdown. And I started talking to really smart people and posting that stuff on the internet. It just kind of dawned on me that there's so much opportunity. People are buying stuff from China on Alibaba. If you don't know what that is, look it up. And they're just basically flipping it on eBay and making $1 million a year. And you know what the great thing, and I have a lot of African American friends in here today, the market does not care what color you are. They do not care that you're from Mississippi. They don't care. They don't care what gender you are. They care what you can do for the market. And like, I'm not oblivious to understanding that being white in America is a leg up, but a lot of the excuses because of the internet are now gone. And if you're making excuses, that's loser mentality in this day and age. And I could not have said that 25 years ago. And I know it looks bad. You look at some of the stuff we see on Facebook. But let me tell you something. When you go back 25 years ago, I don't know, Hayes may remember better than me, when there was a guy in the White House and he had an intern visiting him real often. And everybody in Washington knew about that. Every news organization in Washington knew what was going on, and they refused to say anything about it. And this guy named Matt Drudge said, you know what, I'm going to just post it on the internet. And boom. Instead of 5 white guys having control of all the media that government doesn't have control of, you go in Asia, it's a totally different thing. But in Europe and America, it was 5 white men that had control of all media. And we're going through growing pains, and I know it looks bad, but what's happening is the internet is exposing us. It's not changing us. Even Christopher Columbus, who's been dead for 500 years, is getting exposed now because of the internet, because of social media. It's a totally different world that we live in. And in the end, it's going to mean that we have control over the information, not 5 old white men anymore. And I think that's a good thing. It may take us a little while to get there, but it's a really good thing. And in the end, nobody can hide. We're going to know whether you're a good person or not, whether you have empathy or not. And I really believe when I hire people today, I do not hire them for skill. I hire them for empathy. And you know how easy it is to figure out if they have it or not? I go on their Facebook page. How many people in here hire people and go look on their Facebook page before they hire them? I mean, it's crazy. We didn't even have that before. I still call their references, but I get more from looking at the kind of stuff they post on Facebook than anything. We just live in a different time, and I just really believe that we're going to look back at this moment in time as the gift horse opportunity that entrepreneurs have ever had. Not just in my lifetime, but maybe in, like literally, I don't want to sound dramatic, but in the history of the world, we've never had this kind of opportunity. It's there for the picking for everybody, and all I want to do is make sure that you guys get yours. I appreciate you coming. Thanks so much. And I guess we still have some beer left. You'll have to ask Jimbo, so we'll stay a little while. Thanks.